Dodge, I've been looking forward to this.
I'm very much looking forward to this, John. Thank you for the invite.
My absolute pleasure. And you weren't doing this. You weren't coming on other people's pods and shows until quite recently. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of those things that I've always just said no to over the last sort of 5 years since podcasting became something. My team are constantly pressing me to go on podcasts, go on this, go on that, go on that. But maybe this year I think might be the year.
Why did you say no? Were you busy with your own thing? Were you just trying to stay in your kind of your? Because it was all new to you. 6 years
Yeah,
ago, you were not doing something that now you've had 100 million views.
yeah, it's been pretty mad, the podcast, going the route that I've gone down and creating this, called it a personal brand, which I was very wary of at the start of 2020, and then launching a podcast and going on YouTube and going across TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff. And I was always a person who was the front man of my business, but always was behind the business. And then what's happened really over the last 4 or 5 years, I've put myself in front of the business and having a podcast, just so many doors and opportunities are opening every day through the DMs. It's quite wild. It really is.
I love that, and I know you love it, and you can see it in your eyes when I'm
Yeah.
talking to you. But for context for anyone watching and listening, who is Dodge Woodall?
He's a London boy, grew up and living above pubs in London, got into the events industry very early, 10 years in the nightclub game, throwing parties. And at peak, I had 12 nightclubs from Manchester to Birmingham to Leicester, touring London every week. It was just a very simple business model where we'd take the door money and the club would take the bar money. Did that for 10 years, ended up throwing 1,500 parties in clubs over a 10-year period in my 20s, and then set up a sport and music festival called Bournemouth Sevens, which is now been running for 18 years, still independently owned by myself and my wife. And along that journey, there were many, many stories. And then we built a sportswear brand that went global, and we exited that in 2018.
Serial entrepreneur, right?
That's all I've
Which I
known
know
from
is
a
a
young
real key.
kid.
Yeah,
From a young
always
kid.
doing deals from young. I guess learning from your dad and people around
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, my dad was a boy done good from East London, wasn't educated. My mum was an entrepreneur boy, a girl done good, very pretty lady from Manchester. They met in the casinos in the 70s, and then they got into the pub game. And I grew up living above pub with a nightclub next door. So you see lots of stuff that kids shouldn't see, and I'm around lots of wild people and some entrepreneurs and people wheeling dealing, and there's doorman on the door, and you've got a 2-bed flat upstairs, and you've got 2 Alsatians and a Doberman and a cockatoo called Bubbles because we're all West Ham fans, and then we had a pet monkey. And this was just the 80s for you, it was.
Proper stories.
Yeah, it's just the way we grew up, and it
You've
was
ever been employed?
never.
A lot of
Never.
people we both meet that have gone the entrepreneur have had that sort of, because your grounding, if you like, your education was watching, listening from such a young age that you then backed yourself. And I think that's the key thing. You've got great confidence and you're prepared to take a risk, which has probably given you a sleepless night or two along the way. But you backed yourself to take the opportunity. You'd never actually gone and taken a paycheck from someone to pay with
Never.
you.
Never ever had a job in my life. It's from a young other. My trade has been going since the age of 10, earning money since the age of 10, whether it's selling tickets to the nightclub next door, whether it's, the tickets. My dad pub was a feeder pub. So it was packed. It was 2 floors pub, and then I'd go and buy tickets for a pound off the manager next door, come back, sell the tickets Saturday night for £2, but everyone would get queue jump to the nightclub next door. So it was constant. I was constantly earning money as a kid because I was around it the whole time. And those numbers have just changed. I'm still doing the same thing 30 years later, but those numbers have changed from a pound a man. My mum always taught me pound a man to, for our festival now, 100 quid to 500 quid a ticket. And yeah, it's been a real good, fun, exciting journey. But I don't
Yeah.
know any different, John.
No, and I love that about you.
You
And I
know?
think it's worth, it's not often I can say this, but we've lived within sort of 3 roads of each other at one point. I remember dropping the kids off at nursery and you'd be running past, and we had mutual friends that knew each other well, and you were sort of loosely connected, almost like sort of, but to then get to know you in the last few years, it's a key time to get to know you, because Bournemouth Sevens is huge. It's the biggest event that, down our way, if you like,
Right.
let alone then probably nationally. And you'll tell me sort of from a global point of view where that sits as a festival now.
Yeah.
And you've evolved that. You've built that as an entrepreneur, but you were forced to pivot in 2020. So however many years into scaling that and building that, and I want to sort of, for anyone watching, listening, open that whole thing up where, clearly that must have been a really scary time. Money pumped in, an element of cookie cutting, knowing that was a proven concept, but now actually I've got to skip a year, and what am I going to do? And of course, that has led to you doing the podcast. But just talk me through that period where you knew you had to cancel it, and you've got to then pivot.
That was crazy. We launched the festival in 2008 in the financial crisis, and we grew the business from 4,000 people to 30,000 people in the field, 400 competing teams, TV crews, 12 festival arenas, 100 DJs, etc. We've built that
Massive.
over the years. God, it's wild. It's crazy. And 2020 came, and obviously Boris said festivals can't happen and everything's got to shut down. And I was so excited. I was so excited because I can get that entrepreneur. I need to think of a new business now. It's pandemic proof.
So you embraced it.
I loved it.
I feel that coming off you now.
Mate,
yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. People around me are going, "You're mad," or like we lost a lot of money that year. Don't get me wrong, but I loved it because I was back. I was thinking I need to create a business that's online.
Had you got comfortable? You know that whole expression that the comfort zone is where dreams go to die, because you got something that was proven and you were tweaking it and so on. It forced you back against the wall.
Yeah, back against the wall, and I love back against the wall. And I love risk. Like I love risk. My wife doesn't like risk whatsoever, but I love risk. I love risking my own stuff. I'm not a go in the bookies and what have you, but risk my own stuff. And yeah, 2020 came. I was like, right, I need to think of something new. So literally for 3-4 months, I was on a computer going, what can I do? I need a new business. I need a new business. What can I do? Search, research, and then come up with the idea of one of the members of staff was like, Dodge, you need to do a podcast. You know, so many people. Why don't you create a podcast? I'm like, what's a podcast? Well, genuinely, I did not know. Not many people in the UK really knew in 2020 what a podcast was. And come up with the idea of creating a podcast, and 5 years later, it's turned into an absolute beast. And yeah, we're just completing our 5th year now of podcasting.
You're a veteran.
I've done 330 odd episodes now.
Right, congrats.
Yeah,
and it's loved, right? The viewership says it all. But what I love is knowing you personally, and there's a much sort of bigger and closer community around us now with the connection into JAQ, which we'll talk about in a minute.
I love Jack, by the way.
I know, and I love that. I love the way that's all come together. But that love for you, and it's almost that kind of the guy that just hasn't changed from a mate's point of view or a business person. There's no that the conversation you have with people on your pod is a very curious guy that's genuinely interested in getting answers out of people that he's chosen to talk with. That's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Invitation only.
Absolutely.
What's your story?
Only.
Can I learn from you?
Yep.
Yeah.
People come down. People travel, flying from different countries, or come down, whether they're in the UK, come down to our studio. You know, when I first started,
it's a commitment as well. Come to Bournemouth, right? But they want to come to talk to you.
You think about it. If you think you're down in Bournemouth and Poole, you've got water below you, so everyone's north of you or coming in from different countries, and people will make the effort and come down and come on the podcast because we put on a really good show. You know,
yeah. And you asked the thing for me, because I've listened and watched the countless episodes. You know, you didn't come from a broadcasting background,
no.
Journalist. So it goes back to backing yourself, but you didn't change. You didn't try. Well, I wanted to ask you that. Did you actually get any training? Did you?
Nothing.
Go straight into a chat because I'm interested. And then when did you realize you were good at it? And what I mean by that is, I guess it was a passion project. And and that going back to that, almost that black book, the connections,
Yep.
you know, you'd built up brilliant connections already through the tournament, the festival, and just being just someone that's sort of well connected.
Yeah.
But was there a moment where you were like, oh, actually, the traction's coming, people are giving me good feedback.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
The weird thing is, John, it's a really good question, but the weird thing is when you're doing a podcast, for the first 2 years, we were just Apple and Spotify. So no one could leave comments. So you're doing a podcast, but no one was leaving comments. We weren't on YouTube.
But you're learning on the job, right?
But we were learning on the job, but people could only leave a review on Apple, and people don't really leave reviews. But we started getting all these reviews coming through, like, oh my God, we're onto something here. This is pretty cool. And it was the 8th episode. I was 8 episodes in. I got a phone call from one of the producers of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, saying, Dodge, can we have a chat? I was like, fine. What's this about? And they were like, they came down. I said, come down and see me. And I ended up, they said, we'd like you to be the co-host of a new show. I was like, okay, I'm only 8 episodes in. We'd like to be the co-host of the Harry Redknapp show with Harry. I'm like, where do I sign? Bam, where do I sign? And this all happened so quick. You know, a week later, I was interviewing Piers Morgan. Me, Harry, Piers Morgan. It was that quick. The week after, me, Harry, Sir Rod Stewart. The week after, Eddie Hearn, week after that, Frank Lampard. The list just went on.
And I've watched all of these years ago because, like you, I'd never heard of a podcast going to 20. I was so busy.
Yeah.
Life was mental
Yeah.
pre, and now I think you're a key inspiration in probably why I'm sat here. I was like, actually, you know, there's so many questions you're asking from a point of view of like, just I'd like to know the answer to that, rather than someone in your ear as a producer or director, ask her about this, ask her about that. It all came from a natural curiosity. And then the Harry Redknapp show didn't carry on as that. So you then took that on because you clearly worked out you loved it at that point.
I loved it.
Because I know from the chats we've had off camera that you do this until the day you die, right?
I'm doing podcasting until the day I die. Fact. Like, I love it. I just love people. You remember being a kid? I'm around adults the whole time. You're in a pub where a pub's getting police raided, or something's happening, or a DJ's playing, or it's a big fancy dress party. It was constant around adults. So I learned your emotional. We didn't know what emotional intelligence was back then, but you knew, you had peripheral vision. You knew what was going on. You sensed energy. You could feel energy. You could feel amazing people. Look, remember all these people, thousands of people coming into your pub, you know, and then the feeder for the nightclub. So I saw everything there was, and it was a wonderful upbringing, a very different upbringing, very, very different to anyone that I've ever met. So, and it's something I would never change, without a shadow of a doubt.
I love that though, because you go back to upbringing and how that shaped you, and yet we all go to school and we learn how to use a Bunsen burner and algebra and all stuff that quite frankly we're never going to use again. You learned life, and your intuition, your gut instinct, your empathy is off the scale. I know that's a key reason why you do so well with your pod, because you are vibing off people, and you've got unbelievable energy yourself. On that, what do you do to kind of prioritize both your physical and your mental? Because you're clearly fit, so you clearly do stuff to keep fit. And does that help you with the mindset as well?
100%.
So what do you do?
Part of life every day. Get up, go smash a gym session, jump in the sauna.
It's like a morning routine.
Bam, done.
Up early.
I'm all up early because I'm juggling 3 companies and lots of staff and and I run everything off WhatsApp. No emails, no nothing like that. So I'm on it. But you can go into the gym and you could have something small that could be bugging you. You come out of the gym, those small things that are bugging aren't there anymore. So that the endorphin and the dopamine and everything that's getting clicked around your brain, bam, you come alive. And when you come alive, you attract people around you who want to be around you and who you want to be around too.
That's so true.
It's really simple. It's really simple. I know people on socials try to overcomplicate this thing, and they get up at 4 o'clock and they write a journal and they have a smoothie at 4:15 and they I'm not complicated. Get up, smash a gym session,
So
feel good.
main thing for you is consistency.
100%.
Because I can relate to that.
And good food. I'm not into fast cars and watches. I love good food. I love people. I love long lunches. I like being around good people, and I'm surrounded by really good people.
And then, of course, by then doing the pod, you've given yourself a perfect excuse to grow that network constantly.
Yeah.
And have you grown that all through referrals?
All through referrals.
Love that.
All through referrals. Not one email sent, not one agent spoke to, no one paid. 300 odd people all coming down on the podcast. And then we're launching a new one called Straight Talking Founder, which is being launched in September, October, which is I'm getting founders, startups, creators coming on and telling their story.
Yeah, because going back to the guy that's never had a job, that I know entrepreneurship and kind of founder life is super important to you. And it's a really nice way of us having reconnected, to be put next to each other by the awesome Francesca James Ideas First.
Frankie James, lovely.
Puts us next to each other because she thinks we'll get on, doesn't know we actually knew each other. But what's interesting about that, and I think it's worth championing that, is entrepreneurship and sort of connection, is although we did know each other, we actually had more time together at that dinner than we'd made time for outside of other conversations. So I think that whole bringing people together, and anyone that does that,
if you're a podcaster, you have the most amazing connections with people. And at a time where people are being pushed away from people because everyone's stuck in their phones, this is the real time to get back to connection. And I think connection is what's going to win.
Love that.
I really do believe that, and it's winning at the moment.
I love that. I live by that. And there's a mental health connotation there. The whole lack of authenticity, the lack of being present, going into your phones. I'm battling that with 2 teenage daughters now, not to the point where they're scrolling and so on. They've been shown not.
We all do it. This is a scary thing.
Well, the most addictive
it's scary. If you look at the amount of hours you're on, like if I'm running all my business off WhatsApp, then your team's uploading to YouTube, then they're uploading to everything else going on. You're signing off designs. You've got your calendar on there. the amount of time you're on it, and it's become an addiction. And I think it's a high percentage of the population are addicted to their phones. Now, if you're addicted to your phone, then there's no nightclubs to go to, or no bars, and restaurants are closing down all around the country. You are in more love with your phone. Look how there's a brilliant clip of some photography of this couple, and they're laying in bed, but they've taken the phone out of the hand, and it's just showing they're on the sofa like that. They're in bed like that.
I
They're in
haven't
the
seen
car
that.
at the traffic lights, like going for a phone. It's just to show you how addicted the population is to their phones.
I'm guilty of that. I mean, you can imagine
We're all guilty.
the challenge I've got with it is, you're paying someone, you're booking something, you're checking something,
Guests coming in, you're trying to get them in the diary.
responses.
You're juggling 70 guests. Want to come, you've got
It's
30 in the
all
bank.
become the
It's
phone.
constant. Yeah.
And the danger, of course, is then by default an Insta thing pops up, dodges new pods out, and I'm interested, I'm curious. I go in, and the smartest people that are fighting for our attention work for all these social media people, which you and I know from conversations we've had with other people.
But that's
which
the
is
key.
scary.
The key is to become a creator, not a consumer. And I enjoy being a creator rather than a doom consumer, because you'll waste hours. You'll do 2-3 hours flicking through. You go, what am I doing? I've learned nothing from it. I've had a little dopamine. That people are caught up in consuming. It's a very dangerous place to be.
Yeah,
it really is.
Talking about creator and content and the right content. Jack,
Yes.
JAQ.
Yep.
I love the whole way we came together. I'm going to name Matt Corica, played golf with you.
Played golf at Remedy Oak.
Talked about it, knew that I'd spent a bit of time talking about it, and I was wanting to tell the world about it. This is pre-launch, pre-revenue.
I looked at my WhatsApp last night when I chose Matt. It was November 2022,
which is when it was literally when it launched.
Yeah.
So there was no revenue. So going back to the risk element as well, which we're both aligned on, right? I committed April 22, and I committed time and investment as well. But it was like, how can I help shape? So it's a lovely culmination of a conversation about a business from an entrepreneurial point of view that we're watching evolve, if you like. But that sort of mental health connotation, it's a social media platform that's giving answers from top doctors, specialist consultants, and from people with lived experience about mental health, but in a very aspirational, inspirational way, and educational rather than, and this is where I wanted to go with it, the whole lack of authenticity with certain information being given on TikTok, misinformation and so on. But I want to know what made you get involved with Jack, because it's one thing connecting you in, but you got it so quick and you don't normally do that. So you're very self-sufficient.
I never invest.
No.
I never invest in other people's, but I get opportunities. We all get opportunities. Do you want to invest in it? I've said no for years. This came along, spoke to yourself, Danny Gray come in and did a podcast. I was like,
I was there.
I'm in. Can I get involved in this? I want to invest in this. I was in straight away.
It was a big moment for me, because smart people, of which you've now met many. Alex Packham's has been on your pod. I loved that conversation. It's that whole actually, it goes back to the community and smart people shaping something that's far more than anything I could have done. I just believe in the mission. Make 1 billion people plus their mental health better. What a great fulfillment thing to be involved in. And as you know, I'm enjoying shaping and creating. But I love the fact that you got involved in as an entrepreneur that backs entrepreneurs, but more gives them a voice, mentoring. And we should come on to that, actually. I've noticed a lot more of your content outside of the pod is wanting to encourage and help and be there in what can be very lonely and dark times. I want to expand on that because I can't imagine you having a bad day. You've got such a positive vibe and you've got that sort of consistency that works for you. But what is the message you're giving those entrepreneurs that are in the trenches? They're battling to get funding. They're battling to get their business out of that sort of startup phase.
I can only give what I do. So I can only give my experience of what goes through my mind and how I've worked my way through 30 odd years of being an entrepreneur. And it's about being aggressively patient. You've got to be patient in business. If you can break the back of a business in 1,000 days, you're doing really well 3 years. Most businesses go bust. If you can get to 5 years and break the back of a business, it takes time. But because of instant gratification on everything that people are seeing, bam, 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 bam.
Social media again,
Social media again, oh yeah, but I'm here, I've done this, I've done that, I'm on my laptop in Bali, is this horrible sort of pretend that everyone's smashing it, and they're not. So being aggressively patient is really key, but showing urgency, be a today person, have self-belief, and there's a lot of people out there who don't have self-belief and they're jumping into entrepreneurship and it's a dangerous game. It's a really dangerous game. If you knew 90% of entrepreneurs fail going into business, you've got to remember some people are putting 100 grand in, 50 grand, whatever it is to them, 70 grand. Some people might put in 250 grand. If you're stuck in your business for 2-3 years and you realize it's not working, you're going to be in a serious amount of debt. Then someone's going to come in and buy the shares off you, push you out, and you're away, you're gone, and you've got nothing to show for it. It's a dangerous game, people leaving there. If you're in a good job and you're earning good money, sometimes that's a good place to be. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone.
It's been made fashionable now.
It's
Apparently,
been
the
really
amount
fashionable.
of celebrities that are being almost suggested to become a founder because it's the cool thing to
Cool
do.
thing. You've got to remember,
Start
when
your gym
growing
brand
up,
and so on. I mean, they've obviously got people around
yeah,
them that might, but that's not proper entrepreneurship where the buck stops with
yeah,
them.
it's the
These people
risk.
is
It's
the
the
risk.
risk. I've gambled the family house on putting on a festival. I know what serious risk is, that you could lose your family house by putting a party on in a field called a sport and music festival called Bournemouth Sevens. That's serious risk. And I've done it a number of times. But when this opportunity came up with Jack, I was in. Straight away, I was in 6 figures. I'm in for this. And I've just gone back in again after having the conversation with Alex Packham, who's now the CEO of Jack. And we had a wonderful episode with him. Great
I
guy.
literally listened to
Great
it and
guy.
watched it yesterday.
I got it straight away, and I've gone back in again. I firmly believe in this because my world has been putting smiles on people's faces and bringing people together via the power of events or podcasting over the last 30 years. And I'm seeing Jack is exactly the same, but to do with mental health, bringing people together
At scale.
and trying to put smiles on people's faces, that they're not alone. Whether you are stressed, whether you are suicidal, whether you've got depression, whatever it may be, we're doing a really good cause here. And I just love everything about Jack.
Yeah, a lot of passion when you talk there. And the Dodge that I know, I had a chat with you when we first properly reconnected, where I was having a really tough time.
Yeah.
And you picked up on it big
Yeah.
time. Again, that intuition and so on. It probably was quite obvious to see, but in context, I was crystallizing really big losses on some property stuff that was all going south, whilst being super excited about Jack and so on. But back to you, it doesn't feel like you've had what I'm going to say is a sort of in any way, sort of dark days. You might have tough experiences. We were talking before we started filming about having scars. I'm sure you've got plenty of things.
Loads of scars.
Exactly, but you keep smiling. You've got a mega smile.
Yeah.
And positive. So when you talk with so much passion and for mental health, a lot of people that I know potentially have got involved in Jack or do things to help others have had their own really difficult times. They've had really sort of traumatic things to deal with. Have you? Or is it just a really heartfelt, proper good bloke that wants to give back, if you like,
I
and
can
help
only
others?
go what other people think. I can't really say that to myself, but I get up every day because I love what I do, and I have done all my life. I've never gone in and woken up one day going, I'm going to work, or I'm going to work on something that I don't enjoy. It's events, it's festivals, it's sport, it's media, it's podcasting. Like, I've created all this just off ideas, and exited one of the companies. I'm in the middle of an exit at the moment of one of the other companies we set up in the pandemic, the online training for events where people buy a course. And I brought 40 of the world's leading industry experts in, from Glastonbury to Olympics to London Fashion Week, and they've all pre-recorded. And it's pretty much like Jack, but for the events industry, and how we can get, in the events industry, they lost 250,000 people in the events industry in the pandemic. People in the events industry, you can't wait 4 years to go and do a degree. We want to get people in there. So we've created this online course that people can do in 3 months and get them straight in via my contacts to get them a job.
I know people in my social network, without them knowing I know you,
Yeah.
where their kids have come through and done that course
Brilliant.
and set them up.
Brilliant.
Proper entrepreneurial vision to do that. And then the network, you were the guy that went and got the guy from Glastonbury and everywhere else, put it together. One thing that I know has been a constant in our conversations is bringing that you've got that vision, you've got that sort of entrepreneur-led side of things, and then you bring Fleur into the conversation. Been together 20 years?
Yeah, 22 years.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you know, in any conversations we've had that it sort of involve business and decision making, you bring her in and you're very much a team. So that risk-taking element, is there a yin and yang there?
100%.
Is there
She doesn't like risk. She's a beautiful, beautiful human being from Wales who's into animals, plants, wildlife, life, kind, had a beautiful upbringing in the countryside in Wales, and then she's married a promoter from London. So we're totally opposites, but both she's sports mad as well, international athlete. She went to Loughborough Sports University. That's where we met. And we've got a wonderful relationship. She's my biggest supporter. And if you're in a relationship and you're risking and you're going out, no one's there. As an entrepreneur, no one's going to promote you. No one's going to talk. No, you've got to promote yourself. You've got to promote your businesses. You've got to be obsessed. You've got to be so passionate and obsessed to make something work. And if you're obsessed and you enjoy it, you won't burn out. If you're obsessed and you don't enjoy it, you're going to wake up one morning and go, I don't want to carry this on. I don't care if I lost £250,000. I don't want to carry it on. That's why you have to really pick the right business to go into.
I love that.
And yeah.
So you're podcasting until you literally can't talk anymore.
I'm a podcast.
But you are someone that keeps evolving. So like
Yes.
Bournemouth Sevens started off as a rugby sevens tournament.
Yep.
Now it's a massive festival. Have you got a vision for where you want to go with the podcasting? Because at the heart of it, it's Dodge having amazing conversations that we all want to know the answers to the questions and the people you bring on are interesting. But do you have any sort of grand vision and almost like something you'd like to achieve out of pod? I thought you'd say that.
No.
So it's all about the journey.
All about the journey. It's who you become on the journey. And it's who you become on the journey in your 20s doing nightclubs and all those parties every week and managing teams in different cities with flyers and posters. Back then it was all marketing, flyers and posters. You got to remember, I was on the streets. I was taking really good money in my 20s, but I'd be on the streets flyering as well. And I'd end up speaking. There was a period, I must have spoke to over 250,000 people. And you've got 10 seconds to make sure they're coming to your nightclub in your student night, then that nightclub. And that each person is worth £3 to you.
But there's so much of those
got
sales, those influencers.
You've got 2,000 people coming to your nightclub every week, and you've got 12 of them every week around the country, and you're taking the door money. You're talking, it was a serious business, and no one was doing it. We were the pioneers because those big mega nightclubs were closed midweek. We're like, we'd like to do student nights in your club. This was year 1998 to 2008. So there's a great opportunity, being the pioneer of that. Then we moved into the Sport and Music Festival. No one was doing sport and music. It was either Dubai Sevens or Hong Kong Sevens, and we created Bournemouth Sevens. But I said, with all my contacts in the sporting world and the promoting world, why don't we see if we can amalgamate sport and music? And now it's a big sport and music festival. It's the same with the online events course. It was the same with the sportswear brand that we did called Viper 10. I was seeing that all our competitors were Canterbury, Samurai, all these different brands. They were getting all their kit. They might do a $100,000 deal. They get all the kit from China. It takes 3 months on the water to get back to England, to land, to give to the universities or the rugby teams or the netball teams. And I was like, I need to get in contact with China. I need to get in contact with India, Pakistan, Turkey, all these factories. It's taking too long. I found one, Lithuania. Oh my God, 4 weeks landed on your door. 4 weeks. So this was a fantastic business model. And then we ended up exiting that in 2018. We launched that in the idea was 2010, and we sold that in 2018. And then we hit the pandemic, and the pandemic is what? Podcast. That seems
What a pivot. What a pivot. And it's a massive entrepreneur trait, right? Like there's plenty of people in your position of having built up the festival to what it is that would have gone, I don't know what to do now. And it's all about next year. And, you didn't do that. And I love the fact that in the earlier part of the conversation, you said you got excited about it, you embraced it.
Massively. Never waste a good crisis. And I mean that with respect, but whenever there's a big crisis somewhere, don't waste that opportunity. A lot of people fold over and put their hands over their ears and they don't want to see what's going on. You've got to grab these opportunities while they can, because they come around. They come around in 2001 with the Twin Towers. They come around in 2008 with the global recession and the financial crisis.
It's a glass half full way of looking at it.
They come around in 2020 with a pandemic. No one knew what a pandemic was. That was the time to act. There's lots of people maybe in the garden just drinking, thinking fun or scared, or the fear. Like there's no fear. I brought up with no fear, and there's no fear, and we love risk. And
so your relationship, so no fear, embrace risk.
Yeah.
So there must be countless things you've tried and failed at, but you don't see them as a failure. You see them as, oh, that didn't work, but I learned this from it, and so on. That's what I'm going to pick up from.
I don't. Failure's not even in my vocabulary. It's not even in my vocabulary whatsoever. I'm constantly tweaking. You only fail when you stop a business and have to fold it and walk away from it. That's the time when how I would describe it. It might be a failure. You go, okay, well, I had a big failure there, but someone's failed and they've gone and set up a new business and they've probably been successful with the new business. But we've not, touch wood, we've not failed because I've never stopped. I'm tweaking. I won't be beaten. I can be kicked. I can be punched. Like you'd have competitors coming at different angles at you, trying to nick parts of your business and this and that. Bring it on. Like there's no such thing as failure until you stop. You know,
I
we've
love
built
that.
five businesses over the last 30 years. One of them still going, 18 years independently owned. I just want to make a point on that. Independently owned for a festival. Most of them get bought up by Live Nation or AEG after 2 or 3 years. We're still independently owned and we still got the freedom to do everything we want.
So important,
It's
isn't it?
so important.
And you can feel that. I missed it this year. I was in Ibiza. I was
Yeah.
gutted you kindly invited me,
Yeah.
and I would have loved it. But I remember going back to a few years ago when it was still relatively new. I remember going with Adam Lallana when he was like 16 years old, and it was just like, this is becoming something far bigger. There's an element there, and congrats, by the way. I think it's really important you made that point. And you're very grounded and very humble with the success that you are having and have had. Sitting here now, how would you define success?
Freedom. Freedom to do what you want whenever you want. That's success. Having an amazing wife, an amazing little boy. Freedom to create. No one owns me. No one's telling me you got to be here. No one owns me and tells me what I've got to do. You know, that freedom, I've always had freedom, so I've never known any different. And I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've never known any different. So when people go, oh, it's really tough, isn't it? And it's really lonely. I'm like, I don't know any different. It's just the norm for me.
I think it's fascinating to talk with someone that's literally never been employed, but has been so busy at all times. The kid that was doing those deals, buying for £1, selling for £2, learning the whole thing, and learning sales on the job. You must have been formidable in the streets for those flyers.
Perfect.
Like lock on,
talk
laser.
12 people there. You're thinking 12 people or 10 people at £3. They're coming into your club. You got 10 seconds to turn them around to get them into your place. You've got to be lovely and bubbly and nice. And
you've not lost
the reasons
that.
why. No,
that's the bit about there's no complacency. Like you would, if you got excited about something, you did it with Jack. I mean, actually, you get excited with something, and you're going to have a conversation with them. They're going to get completely caught up with your energy. I'm super grateful to you to make time, because back to your freedom to do what you want, you made time to talk with me today.
Pleasure.
And how does it feel? How does it feel?
It's different being on the other side. I'm normally the one there jumping away with questions and being curious, but it feels nice, in fact, and it's probably going to inspire me to maybe go on some more podcasts.
I hope so,
because I feel like I've got a lot to give to entrepreneurs. Whether you are an ex-sportsman retired going into entrepreneurship, you're going to be lost for 4 or 5 years, or whether you're a young 18-year-old or whoever you are, I feel like I can give a lot of real honest, raw advice. It's nothing written from a book. There's nothing read from a book. It's just building businesses and startups and knowing that I love the chaos. Because when you do a startup, there is a chaos period for 3 years, and I love it. I know it's coming, where a lot of people can fold under that chaos because they just think it might be just them. But every entrepreneur goes through the chaos period until you break the back of it, and then you go, oh, okay, we're on to the next chapter now. What's next?
I heard you talking about that with Alex Packham on your pod yesterday. Listen, and I'm one of the few people that goes around saying that myself. I thrive in that whole, because that's the ducking and diving bit. And I must thrive off that risk as well. And I've clearly done all sorts of property development and stuff that's high risk.
But lifestyle business is so important to me. I've got a lifestyle business. I don't want hundreds of staff. I don't want an empire. A lifestyle business that's really manageable, that the people who you work with are part of your team. People who've been with me for 11 years, 10 years, 9 years. Give them the freedom to make mistakes. Give them the freedom to be entrepreneurs within the business, like an entrepreneur, but they've got no financial risk. And let them have fun, because we're in a real fun. We're lucky to have businesses that are fun. Yeah, essentially.
But you look after people as well. I'm going to name Josh at this point, because I've been lucky enough to come in when Danny did his pod, and
there's lots of them.
And you've looked after him. He wants to. That's a bright guy that could learn from you.
But there's lots of them,
and then go off and do something else. Right?
But I want them to go off and do something else. I encourage them all to go off and do something else. There's only so long you can keep people for. Whether it's 3 years, 7 years, 9 years, 11 years. They learn, like I always say, if you are wanting to be a successful entrepreneur, go and work with an entrepreneur for 2 years. You'll learn more in the 2 years or 6 months than you will do in any corporate job for 15, 20 years.
It's effectively apprenticeship. It's like an entrepreneur. I mean, that is like, you're going to learn more there than if you did a degree in something, and then you're not going to get the job.
100%. 100%.
Well, thank you. I don't want us to end, but I'm conscious of time. And I looked forward to this. We first talked about it maybe a couple of years ago, and you were like, I remember you were like, why would I go on someone else's pod? So I feel really lucky. And you should go on other people, because you're good value, Dodge.
Yeah, okay.
And you've made time to talk with me today. So thank you.
My pleasure. Good man, John.
Appreciate it.
Well done. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.